Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me here today for our December Yang practice. We're going to keep it simple. It is a tough time of year, so nothing too complicated, nothing too demanding of our energies. We're going to dive right in a minute, build some warmth. It's a dark, cold time of year, so I'm going to try to keep it light and bright and heating. And then as always, we will finish with some meditation. Okay, our tea I have chosen for today. I've been really into lemongrass and peppermint recently. I was never really into lemon and peppermint blends. I know they're very common for essential oils and for tea as well. There's something different about lemongrass and peppermint that I really like. You can find blends, or you can take a bag of lemongrass and a bag of peppermint. It will be stronger because there are 2 bags, which is fantastic because then you can get a giant mug. It is often tougher to realize how dehydrated we're getting in the winter. In the summer, we all know about dehydration. It's hot, we feel thirsty more often. And in the winter, we often don't notice it until it really catches up with us. That our eyes feel really dry when we blink, or our skin feels super dry. The furnace is coming on, or however you heat your home, and we get sort of this like dry slipstream of moisture from our mouths, our eyes. Even our nostrils can really dry out. People are more prone to nosebleeds in the winter. So I say get a giant mug, keep on sipping throughout the day. Soup broth is another great option, running a humidifier, plain old water, all that good stuff. But I think energetically, to give us a bit of a boost, lemongrass and peppermint is kind of one of those Goldilocks mixes. Not too much energy, not too little energy, just right, kind of calming and energizing at the same time. So that's our tea for this month, lemongrass and peppermint. And then our essential oil, cedarwood. Earthy, warming, might be a little too heavy. You might find it makes you a little bit too sleepy. I like it. I find there's a bit of pep and energy. Sometimes I'll mix cedarwood and rosemary. And then to have even more cedary goodness, you can get cedar balls at the dollar store. Often you can find them at hardware stores or other home type stores. You can rub the cedar ball between your hands and enjoy the smell. You can place a drop of essential oil. And I have, I don't know what this was actually intended to be, maybe a jewelry dish. Someone gave me this. It's Himalayan salt, and I've put 3 cedar balls in it. So then I go ahead and do a drop of cedarwood on it, and I leave this on my desk. And it just kind of gives me this nice scent while I'm working at my desk. I have a dropper. If I'm working at night, it's vanilla, it's more soothing. And then if I'm working during the day, I have these days my cedarwood. In the past, it's been citrus, which is another energizing thing. But I'm thinking, winter, Christmas trees, cedarwood, cedar balls, anything to give us some nature indoors when we're inside a lot, most of us, all winter. Any smells of nature are fantastic. Okay, we have something nice to smell. We have something nice to sip. We will get moving. I know what I'm forgetting. We're gonna do a Yantra practice. So one thing that happens in the winter is we often get a bit airheaded and forgetful. So this is our Vata energy. We get Vata between 2 and 6 in the afternoon, especially during those afternoon lows. When your mind sort of goes unfocused and you can't really concentrate or pay attention to anything, and you're talking and you get to the end of a sentence and think, where was I going with this? Or if you're ever up in the middle of the night, you could feel often like energized, sometimes in a very unpleasant way, between 2 a.m. and 6 p.m. Or we have that same kind of energy in the Vata season, which is the winter. Adjust it for your climate. When the summer starts to dry out and cool down, that's the beginning. And then when it starts to warm up and get more soggy in the spring, that's the end. So because we are Vata, dry, unfocused, we have a grounding scent to kind of bring us down back to earth. And we have a hydrating tea, and we will do a focusing exercise. So I'm going to put a yantra up on the screen. Thank you to Wikimedia Commons and whoever created this image. This is a symbol for the universe and everything. We will stare at this for 45 seconds. There is good research to say that we can stare for 45 seconds to a minute. After that, sometimes the eyes get tired. There are longer practices, there are shorter practices, there are different practices. For today, I'm gonna go with, the research says 45 seconds to stare at a single point. You can stare at your hand, you can stare at a spot on the wall across from you, but it's yoga class, so we're gonna take an image from yoga. We're gonna use our yantra. Okay. Here we go. Let's go for 45 seconds. I got my eye on the clock for you. So let's gaze at the center of the yantra without any expectation of how this is going to go. This may be a new practice for most of us. Let's see if we can relax the muscles of the face and the muscles around the eye. So we are working on our muscle of focus and concentration. And we only have another 15 seconds here. So we're using some willpower, pushing ourselves, but also relaxing ourselves while we're here. So we have some effort, but we're not grasping or working too hard. To release this practice, it may work well to blink the eyes a couple times if they have gotten dry. And traditionally, actually, we are supposed to close the eyes and allow ourselves to focus on the after image that forms behind the eyelids. Checking in with how we're doing, noticing how this practice has worked for you, and leaving yourself a mental note if you liked this. I will link below. You can print this image and leave it on your fridge. Or you can have any other item of your choosing around the home to gaze upon for 45 seconds to a minute to train your focus. Okay, let's open our eyes. Let's come back together and let's just do some movement that feels reasonable for you at this time, here and now. So whatever feels good after we've been sitting for a few minutes to kind of limber up and let it go. Many of our practices can be adjusted for a chair today, done in a seated position, but for now, if you want to come and stand with me, feel free to do so. Let's stand tall. We'll have some space around us, just careful, of course, that we're not going to knock stuff over. And you may like some blocks nearby or a chair for support or balance or anything like that. We don't need any fancy techniques. We're just going to come up to standing. Let's do one of my favorites to bring up some energy in these dark, tired months. We're going to drop our heels. Some Qigong, Tai Chi inspired. We're going to inhale up to our hearts, and then exhale down. So we might like to do 4 heel drops up and 4 heel drops down, and at any point, of course, we could take the heel drops out. I think they create a wonderful vibration to lift our energy. Now, if we want to warm up the range of motion more, we come up and then out to the side. We can lift our chests, a little bit of a back bend. As we get up there, pull up with our hands and then out to the side. We'll do just 2 more. Let's get rid of those heel drops. Big breath up overhead and then out to the side. Finding a comfortable range of motion. What if we're a little cranky in our shoulders? We're only going part way. Totally fine. Last one here. Big breath in, high or low with the arms, and we release. All right, let's take our feet wide. So if you are standing on your mat like a diving board, we'll step wide and just do your best to face me or look at me over your shoulder. or step wide in your home. Maybe you don't even have a mat. You're just following along. Let's do some movements for our shoulders. So we're gonna hold strong in our legs. Let's loosen up those shoulders. We just bounced our heels. Let's bounce our shoulders, and we may find as we do this bouncing movement that, like I just did, your neck starts to loosen up or something kind of, starts to limber up. Let's do a big squeeze up to our ears. Big breath in. We can even make fists. And then we release. Roll those shoulders down and back. Let's do that 2 more times. Big squeeze. Exhale, mouth or nose. Shoulders down and back. Can we feel that we are getting taller, even if it's just our imagination? Okay, let's work upper and lower body together. So we can lower down, maybe hands to thighs for support. If we're in a chair, we're stepping our feet wide, seated, and we'll just do the arm movements. Inhaling up and exhaling down. Strong pull, elbows to ribs. So a lot of these videos that I put would actually be nicely done at a desk if you're at work. And you can appropriate the movements for your space, seated in your desk chair, or maybe you are just not feeling up to it. Another common Vata condition is vertigo and kind of dizziness as our ears dry out. So that might be another time that we want to be seated or use a chair for some of this. Okay, let's draw a circle with our fingertips, drawing the shape of the sun, reminding ourselves that it does exist even on these cold winter days. And can we have our eyes and our heads be part of the pose? Looking upward, imagining the warmth of the sun on our faces. Very optimistic position for our eyes to be in, thinking to ourselves, onwards and upwards. Last one here. Let's lower down, and if we'd rather be in more of a Tai Chi stance to give our legs a break, we can. If we're really feeling that heat today, we can be quite low in a big squat. We'll take our arms out to T, and we're gonna circle our shoulder forward, and then back, forward, and then back. So we start simple, and then we layer on, we make it look fancy. We're gonna channel our inner belly dancer, or maybe we're thinking snakes or the element of water. Even the movement of like how a flame flickers is kind of liquid, even though it's not liquid, it's fire, obviously. That's the kind of fluidity we're trying to get in the upper body. Can we do one shoulder forward, one shoulder backward as we take our bodies side to side? And as we work through this coordination, you may be focusing more on the forward movement of the shoulder, or maybe focusing more drawing the shoulder blade back and down. Maybe you're using all your concentration just to think about flipping the hands or side to side. So taking our minds wherever it is the most useful, the most helpful. And I think this skill can be applied to our frantic holiday pressures, taking our mind to the one thing that is the most helpful at this moment. Okay, do our arms feel tired? Probably. Okay. Let's release. Let's turn toes forward, and let's do a gentle figure 8 to let that go. So palms backwards and then palms forward. We can add a bit of a cat and cow rib cage movement while we're here. Lifting as we pull back, and then tucking as we glide forward. Okay, let's come into not a super exaggerated back bend, but a tall, confident position. We'll do our chair flow here. So if you are seated, just careful that we're not knocking our elbows on the back of the chair. You might be hovering above the chair, or you might be putting your hands on the back of the chair to help you sit low. That's actually a great one for anybody. It's a great warm up to make sure that the muscles of our bum are actually doing their job, and our quads, the front of our thighs, can relax a little bit. So we're drawing our elbows back and then using our hands forward to counterbalance our butts going back. We can make a fist or a flat hand. Maybe we can feel that relaxing through the front of the thigh, making the muscles of our bum work. This is our secret weapon in relieving back pain. our glute muscles, and they tend to get a little weak over the winter as we sit on them and they sort of slumber or hibernate. We could also give our toes a bit of a wiggle at the bottom range of motion. Last one here. Let's lift one heel at a time. Maybe some popping or cracking in the ankles. Maybe we're lifting both heels together and balancing. Lots of strength for our inner thighs. We can ask our glutes to work a little harder as we sit lower. Let's take one breath in and we'll, as we exhale, lower down and come back to standing. Let's do one more sort of balance heel lift exercise. So if you are using a chair, standing behind a chair, you can put your hands on the chair. If you're sitting, you can do calf raises. And actually seated calf raises or standing are a great way to regulate our blood sugar throughout the day. So whether we're seated or standing, we're gonna lift our heels and then slow lower down. So there's been great research on working movement and exercise into people's days to keep their blood sugar a little more balanced, a bit more level. And after meals, they'll get them to do stuff like this seated, lifting the heels. And it is a great way to relieve some swelling in the lower leg if you find that sitting means that your calves kind of swell up. I'm very prone to that, especially in the winter. And another great way, like I said, to help regulate our blood sugar. After meals, our blood sugar goes up. But if we do these, they call them soleus push-ups, which sounds very impressive, but they're heel raises or calf raises. Okay, we'll lower down. Let's stretch these calves out. Okay, so from the top of our mats, we're stepping back, left or right, doesn't matter, into a short stance, warrior one. So if we were on a chair, we just turn sideways to be able to split our legs as well as possible. And let's get our arms going with our breath to focus our minds. Inhale, we open, show our muscles, and exhale, we release. We can bring hands back to heart. We may also like to bring our hands to our forehead, do a little tap to remind ourselves to focus our thoughts on what we're doing. Choose which direction our thoughts are going in and focus on the most beneficial thing in this moment. We're working our coordination. We're also pressing down through that back heel. Last one here. Let's open into cactus. And then option to reach behind us. Interlace if we like, or taking our fists to the back of our pelvis. Draw the elbows together. Let's step up to the top and we'll take the other foot back. Right or left, doesn't matter, we're just switching sides. Here we go. Inhaling open and exhaling. We can tap the fleshy part of our thumbs to the forehead, focusing our minds. Or maybe this time we're reversing the breath. Inhaling with our hands together, noticing probably different expansion through the rib cage, the back and the underarms. If we exhale as we pull back, it's probably easier to slide those shoulder blades down, squeeze them together. And then as we did before, let's pull back. And we can fly our arms in behind, interlace, or take our fists to the back of the pelvis and draw the elbows towards one another. Strong balance. We'll step our feet towards one another, coming into warrior two. So as we did before, we'll do one side and then the other. I don't know how right or left is working for you in your space or your chair. So let's pick one side. We'll pick our most comfortable side to bend and draw knee over ankle, and our opposite leg is straight. Usually we do it with our toes angled in, but let's keep it comfortable for the back knee. All right, we'll take our hands over top of our feet. And we can gaze straight forward, or we can turn to look over our bent leg. Pausing and holding steady here. Maybe we're spreading our fingers to help us spread our toes and have strong contact with the earth. If we're thinking winter, Vata season, air-headed, let's bring it back down to the ground. Bringing into our minds, or maybe into our nose if you use that essential oil, thinking we're walking through a forest, the scent of fir trees is all around us. We are connected with nature, we are grounded. We can take our hands down to our hips and we're switching sides, pivoting our feet. Our straight leg is now our bent leg, and our bent leg is our straight leg. For our arms and our shoulders this time, let's take our palms up, imagining we are holding a snowball in each hand. We're still strong, we're supporting a little bit of weight. It's packing snow, it's a bit heavy. So we got a pound in each hand. We can gaze straight forward or turning to look past our bent knee, eyes towards the horizon. Can our breath be calm and steady, even though our muscles are working? We'll bring our hands back to our hips. We'll do a flow here, and again, we might want to bring our feet together if our inner thighs are getting a bit tired. So we're going to pivot one side to the other. So we're going to take one foot, point towards the corner, back to center. The other foot points towards the corner, back to center. Or if you're not on a mat, you're sort of pointing your foot towards the corner of the room and then back through center. So we're kind of pivoting a warrior one. We're going to build some heat. We're going to challenge our coordination. We can sweep arms overhead to warrior one and then back through center. Overhead to warrior one and then back through center. So we're pivoting our feet and our bodies. Our chests go in the same direction as our foot. Our knee goes in the same direction as our foot. So I want to give us a couple of exercises to work on our feet and our coordination as we go into the icy season. And all this pivoting too, if you're barefoot, it's a little bit of exfoliation for the underside of our feet. Maybe we need that more in the winter. And notice how it feels in our hips and our knees if we want our feet to go closer together, further apart, more turned out, less turned out, making it work for ourselves. Let's go once more each way. We're coming back through center. Option again, we can take our hands interlaced behind our backs and we'll come into our wide-legged forward fold here. So let's make sure we have some space to tip forward. And if we have our blocks close by, we can have our blocks underneath our hands instead of interlacing our hands. But the idea is that we've just worked the muscles in the back of the leg so they get a little bit of a stretch. Maybe we're shifting hips side to side, bending our knees, seeking out those tight spots in the body, giving them some extra attention. Let's bend our knees. We can bring our hands up on our thighs, use the strength once more in our glutes, the muscles of our bum. Coming on up to the top, we'll walk our feet in. Let's work our balance again. So we'll do a variation of tree pose to challenge our balance. Yes, of course, you can put your hand on a chair, a wall, whatever you have nearby, and it's gonna go like this. Let's pick our good side. I feel strong on this side today, so I'm gonna be in tree. I'm going to draw a little circle and then I'm going to come back into tree. And that's it. Circle, come back into tree. If we want more challenge, we make a bigger circle. Maybe you did ballet when you were younger. You want to channel and challenge your inner ballerina. That's up to you. Or maybe we're tapping as we go through this circle to give ourselves more support. Let's do 2 more circles. High circles, low circles. Making sure we're still breathing, still feeling tall. And then we've got our second side. Okay, might want to shake it off. If we were putting our hand on the wall on one side, let's put our hand on the wall on the other side. We start off in tree. Here we go. See if this side feels more sturdy, less sturdy. Draw that circle. We can tap as we go around our circle to help ourselves. And yes, we could do this in a chair, drawing circles with the knee. Of course, the chair is in the way, but we still get the benefit of working through hip mobility. We'll give it a couple more. This is another one like staring at that yantra. We can pick a spot and stare at it to help us focus. Often if we have a busy mind, coming into a balance pose forces us to concentrate. So let's do just a normal tree pose on each side to bring that home. Okay, we get steady. Pick our good side. Find a spot to stare at, the wall ahead of us, or on the floor, or something else in your home, in your space. Let's do 1 full steady breath here. Maybe not even blinking to help us concentrate. And then we're ready to lower down and come to the other side. Okay, we set up on the other side. Orient ourselves, find something to stare at. Whoa, full round of breath. Maybe not even blinking. And then we're ready to come out of the tree. Okay, we'll come to the top of our mats if we have one, and let's make our way into forward fold. One more time we have the option for chest expansion. So we can reach back, fists to sacrum, interlacing, or any other variation. Bringing this into our forward fold, bending our knees, resting our belly on our thighs, enjoying forward fold for a moment here. And when we're ready to release our hands to the floor, we can give a gentle shake out, nodding our heads yes. If we love forward fold, we can hang out longer, or we're stepping back to child's or downward facing dog. From child's or downward facing dog, we'll take 1 foot forward into a kneeling lunge. I know it's sometimes tricky to get it up there, or maybe even instead of a kneeling lunge, we're off the back knee or in our Tai Chi stance to keep everything comfortable. But as long as we have a split between our front and back leg, we are lengthening down our hip flexor and our quad muscle of the back leg. If we have a block nearby and we want it for balance, or we want to use the floor, we can. Careful that we're not sagging. Can we still be reasonably tall, drawing ourselves up away from the floor? We can stay here, or we can turn and twist, so bringing our hearts towards our knee. Let's hold 1 more breath. And we'll take our time. Let's make our way to the other side. We can step back into child's or even into forward fold, whichever one is easier for you. Opposite foot forward, setting up in a way that feels okay. So this can be a tough one for a variety of reasons. It is a fan favorite for some, but not all. So let's find a way to approximate this split in the legs and not deflate too much while we're here. We can stay as we are, or we can add our twist taking heart to knee. Depending on how much rotation we have, maybe we're taking our heart to the side wall. Maybe that makes more sense for you. And then we are ready to release back again into child's or downward facing dog, yogi's choice. Option to hold our child's. Maybe we want to take our forearms underneath us, or we can add a side bend if we like, walking our hands to one side. Adding a stretch. Challenging ourselves to breathe more fully in child's. And if we've walked over to one side, we can take it over to the other. Cat and cow from either seated or all fours. So we can do the same movements of the rib cage on all fours or sitting on our bums. Let's take our spines back and forth. And as we've been doing, seeking out any really tight spots. So if we go through and we feel a really sticky spot, we can kind of get some extra movement there, shift our body weight front and back or side to side. So if we're always doing cat and cow, straight forward and straight back, we're kind of missing out. So let's go off the beaten path, make it a little bit more wonky. And then we'll come back into neutral. And if we're not already seated, let's go ahead and take a seat. We may like to sit on a surface, like a block or a cushion, or just the floor. We'll come back into our lateral flexion. And let's do it the way we did, sort of our Qigong breath as we did earlier. We come up, and then we open palms forward. Let's do our lateral flexion like that here. So we'll tilt to one side. If we want a hand for support, we can take it down. And I really like this palm forward variation because it means that we're not going to be rolled forward in the shoulder. We're kind of open and confident. There's kind of this element of surprise built into the movement as well. We'll give it a couple more rounds of breath. And we'll take it the other way. Up tall. Can we slow our breath down at this point, deepen it out? Okay, we'll come back to seated. Again, loosen up anything we need to do. You never need my permission to kind of shake it off and reset and do something sort of different. Let's do a little bit of tapping. I have decided for today, let's choose just one word. Again, thinking about focus and concentration. Having these long, complicated affirmations is great when we're in a beautiful state or when our memory is good, but sometimes we just need one word. And often in yoga, it's just one syllable that we work with as a mantra or a seed sound. 'Tis the season, I have chosen the word peace. I think it is something that we need to give ourselves and carve out time for peace. Give ourselves our own little sanctuary on our mats or whatever else it is. And of course, seasonally, we're thinking about world peace, peace with one another. Let's tap on the word peace. If you like a full sentence, you may like something like, peace is within me. I am peaceful. If you've never done tapping before, maybe I should have started with that. We tap on different points and then either out loud or in your mind, we repeat affirmations. For today, our affirmation is peace. Let's start at the top of the head, full breath in, full breath out, and we simply say to ourselves, peace. Inside of the eyebrow, peace. Outside of the eye on the temples, peace. Under the eye on the bone, peace. Under the nose, peace. On the chin, peace. Collarbones, just under the collarbones, peace. Okay, for this one we can do left and right. Under the left arm, the underarm, peace. And under the right, actually a little bit forward for our liver. This is supposed to release anger, peace. Let's give it a few rounds of breath here. We'll come back to this Qigong kind of breathing, inhaling up, exhaling out. There's something about this too that looks a little bit like ta-da, and it can help us to remember to be lifted in our posture in a time that otherwise brings us down. So we have this balance of light and lifted, but also heavy and grounded. The yoga school I teach for always says, balanced between earth and sky, imagining we are being stretched between earth and sky. So maybe that is a helpful reminder for you. Last one here. We can bring hands down beside us. How are we doing? Perfect timing. Okay, we can sit or we can lie supine. We're just gonna do a couple more stretches. All right, so if we are seated, we approximate the same kind of movement. We're gonna do a twist like we just did. So we can turn and twist one way and hold the arm of the chair or the back of the chair to hold us in our twist. If we are lying down, let's come into a supine twist. So we bring one bent leg across the body. And we can leave our arms alongside the body, opposite hand to knee. And we may be turning to look away from the knee. With our next exhale, we may like to twist more deeply. And then we're ready to open up and bring it to the other side. This side might need a slightly different variation, a bit more support in one way or another, altering however necessary. Can we bring some softness to the muscles of the face? Allowing our next exhale to bring us more deeply into the twist. Further without forcing. Drawing ourselves back through center. Coming into a variation of pigeon. So we'll take ankle over thigh, and sometimes if we're seated in a chair, it's easier to take ankle across ankle, but our main idea is to externally rotate the leg, almost like we're gonna go and get a piece of gum that's stuck to the bottom of our shoe. That's the kind of shape we're going into. Our more easy breezy variation is to take our hands behind the head, if that's more comfortable. You could also have a block behind the head or a pillow. And if we're doing this in the morning, I call it cloud gazer's pose, and if we're doing it in the evening, I call it stargazer's pose. We could be passive, or if we're craving a much deeper stretch, we can draw our legs towards us, and if we're in a chair, we could be hinging forward over our legs to intensify the stretch. To increase our relaxation, let's stretch our exhale out to be longer than our inhale. To release, let's windshield wipe our legs side to side, loosening up. Coming back through center and taking it to the other side, our easy breezy variation or our more intense variation. Every leg is different, every hip is different, so this side might need something a little bit different than the other side. That's okay. We achieve balance through an unbalanced practice. All right, so if we're a little bit tighter on one side than the other, maybe we hang out there a little bit longer. This is one of the great things about doing these classes online. Nobody knows what you're doing. If you need to do this stretch much longer on one side than the other, you could pause, you could ignore me and just keep stretching. Totally up to you. All right, we'll go ahead and release. We can plant our feet. We can windshield wipe, knees to chest or a long stretch, whatever we need at this moment. And let's come into a position for our final relaxation. Maybe we're taking hands to belly or ribs to focus on our breathing. And let's pick a technique to focus our minds. You may like to keep repeating the word peace to yourself. Or you may like to hold an image in your mind that you find particularly peaceful. Maybe a puffy white cloud, or some holiday lights, somebody you know, any image in your mind, holding our concentration steady there. So we'll give it just a minute here and then come into our breath pattern. We can let this word or this image go. Coming back to our breathing, full inhalation and a long, slow exhalation. Thank you so much for choosing to spend this time with me. From my light to yours, namaste.